Hey, this is Don Walters coming to you from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Hey, just want to touch on a subject, and that's how a lot of these studies are changing for you, those who are out there interested in doing these CNS studies. Just talking to a friend of mine today who works for a very large research company, and he was sharing with me on how they're seeing a different trend on how these studies are conducted. I know Dan had went through and did a very thorough job of talking about expectations for how these for all the new studies and how they're going to be laid out as far as participating in these studies. This is kind of along the same way, but just want to share this bit of information with you that I just was given. And that's a lot of the studies now. I know before, you were seeing a lot of studies that you go in, you're there for 14 days, you might be there for 21 days, you might be there for 45 days. And a lot of you were going into studies, and again, we know that, some of you may be looking for different medications to help you with your illness. You're also definitely looking for the money, and you look for that, where you can do that 30-day study, that 45-day study, and walk away with some money that'll help you do the things that you want to do with that money. But what you're seeing now, and what I'm told the trend is, for instance, if you got an inpatient study or a long-term study that typically, let's say the study could have been a 45-day study normally, and you might go in and you'll spend a week in the hospital or in the research program, inpatient stay, and then you go outpatient. You might go home and you might be there for 3 days, come back, do a visit, and might be in the hospital for an overnight stay or a couple days or something like that. And then you go back home again. So you're in and out of the hospital. You're not this consistent inpatient stay for 30 days, 2 weeks, 45 days, or whatever it may be. It's going to be broken up where you're going to be in the hospital under observation in segments. It's less costly for the pharmaceutical companies because, if you're in there every day, then they have to pay those hospital bed days, and that can be expensive on their end as far as the way they look at it. So if they have you at home and only have you there on intervals, it gives the doctors and the coordinators or whoever's monitoring you during the study a chance to see how you're doing. And if you're doing fine, then they'll send you back home. Anyway, this is kind of a new trend. There's still a few studies out there that are being done. I noticed that, like the later phase studies, where there's a couple that are still, 30, 45 days, and maybe a little bit longer. But we're seeing a trend on a changing. Even the healthy normal studies, I'm told it's the same thing. You're not going to have that long inpatient stay like you used to have. It's going to be broken up, where you're going to be going in on intervals, and where you'll be home and you'll report back to the facility on exactly how you're doing in that study. So anyway, this is just a little bit of information for you, for those out there who are looking to conduct studies, or looking to participate in studies. It's changing, and a lot of this is changing in the direction of the pharmaceutical companies being more cost effective in how they're doing these studies. And also, as Dan said before, protocol is a lot tighter now. One of the things I'm seeing too is that some of the studies that are being done, especially in the later phase studies, are based on studies that were done, several years back. So they're doing extensions to that, and that's also keeping a lot of people from being able to do studies because they've been in some part of that particular study. And the reason for that, for instance, if you've done this particular study early on, and let's say it was at an earlier phase, and now they're in a later phase, they've already collected data from you, and they don't need to collect it from the same person again later on. And that's been keeping a lot of people from being able to participate. So anyway, hope that information helps you. If you have any questions, please contact Dan or I at www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Signing off, this is Don Walters.